My daughter Olivia was my everything, my whole life. Little Elmer was Olivia's nickname. She was so clingy to me that it was like Elmer's glue. So we just called her Elmer, and that stuck with her throughout her adulthood. She liked attention. She was sweet. Just the cutest little girl. Smart as can be. Since she got one-on-one attention all the time, she was pretty advanced in learning numbers and letters and things like that. She did very well in school. She liked school. She liked art. She was beautiful. She was just stunning, physically and emotionally, like a ray of sunshine. Horses were her thing. She loved horses, and it was very therapeutic for her to have horses. It helped her a lot with her treatments when she went off to therapy in Vermont. She came across a horse because they had equine therapy there, and she just loved that horse. I just have to have this horse, she said. So I had to buy that horse and have it sent all the way down from Vermont to Maryland, because that was her best friend. During her preteen years, our family went through a major change. Her father and I were divorced. And that really impacted her because she was a daddy's girl too. And he wasn't around all the time. And she had great disappointment with the circumstance. So that's when it started, when she started to seek out other people in her life that weren't the best influence. Her schoolwork started to decline. We would be getting phone calls from the school saying she's being argumentative with the teachers or getting in fights with the kids at school, or she wasn't in school, but she was supposed to be in school. Initially, blame it on puberty or the circumstance of her environment, of the divorce and things changes in a home. And you don't really look at a different reason, a chemical reason. So she got by with a lot of things for a long time because we thought it was something else. And we were naive to how chemicals, whatever it may have been at that time, affected personality and behavior. So we just blamed the puberty and her environment at home. Olivia was probably about 14 when she started to use. So it was a long time. I mean, she passed at 28 years old. And between 14 and 28, those 14 years, she had tried probably pretty much everything, I would assume, at one point or another. Watching her use was difficult because I didn't really know that there were substances behind this. So I thought it was emotional problems of depression and anxiety, which she also had, but I didn't know that substances were causing it to be more severe. So she was going to psychiatrists, psychologists, when a lot of it was substance. And she was diagnosed with depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, and with chemicals in her system, of course, she's going to give signs of bipolar disorder, but that's what she was diagnosed with. So she was put on prescription medications for the depression, anxiety, bipolar, mood disorder, and they really didn't help. And throughout her 14 years, she had been on so many different prescriptions that she never really seemed to level out. My relationship with Olivia was up and down. I was always on edge, always like holding my breath, waiting for the next incident to happen of saving her from her issue that she's going through, whether it's needing to be picked up somewhere, calling me from the emergency room, helping her get a lawyer for DUIs. There were good times in between all of this, but I have to say that the majority of the things that come to my mind still are the bad. And I've been told I have PTSD from dealing with her past. Olivia was 28 when she passed, and for so long I had this feeling like I was just waiting for that moment, like I was almost prepared, because she had lived such a, dangerous lifestyle, that when the phone rang and she answered it, and it was just a pleasant voice, it was just like, but many times it wasn't that. It was a distress call, and that's what kind of led me to my PTSD. Even to this day, I can't sleep with the ringer on my phone at nighttime. I have to turn it off because it just startles me. And I say all these things about her addiction and how she was impacted by substances. But underneath all of that, she was just a wonderful daughter. It's two people. It's drugs had taken over. And I'm very religious. So my thought was and is that Satan really had his hands on her. And knowing that she was such a good person, inside he tried even harder to drag her down. And I think, and I've said that God just said, "You've had enough playing with her. I'm going to bring her home." And he brought her home. Evening prior to me finding her, I was trying to call her over and over again, and she didn't answer, and I just had this motherly instinct. So I called the police to do a wellness check, and they went and did a wellness check, and when they got there, it had snowed a little bit that night before, which is unusual. But they said that there were no footprints in the snow outside her door, and there was no noise coming outside her apartment, which, to me, if you're doing a wellness check on somebody, you would try to get in. But they said that they could not break in to see if she was alive or not, or what was going on. So the next morning I went over, still no footprints in the snow. I had a locksmith come and unlock the door. And initially, when I walked in, I'm looking around, and I looked in her bed, and her bed was empty. And the locksmith said, "Is this who you're looking for?" She was slumped over the couch like she was in mid-stride, just walking, and then just fell right over. And that's where I found her. I called 911, and I'm just in shock. I don't remember much of that day, but I do remember them coming, and I do remember them taking her out in a black body bag. And I wanted to touch her one more time. And they didn't really want to let me, but I asked again, and they finally unzipped it and let me say goodbye to her. And I will always have that imprint of that van and her being put into that van in that black body bag. She was given drugs laced with fentanyl. She knew about fentanyl. She was fearful of it. She had Narcan accessible. She knew about fentanyl test strips. She was afraid to die. The police took her phone and did forensics on it, of trying to find out any information of where the drugs may have come from. I don't feel like they did it justice. They had information on there. I gave them information from friends of Olivia's that knew people that sold things, but it never seemed to go anywhere. I think overdoses have become such a commonplace now that the police and healthcare workers are not fazed by it anymore. It's just another thing, and it's really sad. I don't really believe in the phrase of enabling, because they're going to do what they're going to do anyway. But in my circumstances, I know my daughter had a roof over her head and food to eat because I helped her, and I wouldn't have changed a minute for it. Because I often thought about, I found her in her apartment, not behind a dumpster somewhere. Or not found her at all. So don't give up on people that you love. Help them. Let them know you're there. Don't turn your back. It's tough. To help with my own therapy in dealing with Olivia's loss, I've become really active in different organizations and volunteering. Lost Voices of Fentanyl is a big one. They're a group of thousands of people that have lost loved ones to fentanyl. They have rallies in D.C. every year. I volunteer at the health department and put Narcan kits together. Opportunity Ministries, which is an organization that has several sober living homes, and I go to the sober living home, the women's sober living home, on Monday nights just to listen to them, and they listen to me, and it's very therapeutic. And I also like to be up to date with, what's going on with the government and how they are managing the importation of drugs. And I've also been involved in help advocating for law change for drug dealers to have a tighter sentence.